Man is an animal that makes bargains. No other animal does this. No dog exchanges bones with another. Adam Smith. The system is about to be flipped upside down. Please keep your friends and family aware. Like, subscribe, share these videos. Please remember that this video is not financial advice. It is for entertainment purposes only.
Our focus should not be so much at worrying specifically about any one country, but worrying about the free world. That I am more concerned with having our information technology infrastructure sourced in countries that we can trust, rather than not having them built in China or other specific countries. And so I think that that is likely to be the focus and the attitude of the incoming Biden administration, to say that the free countries of the world have to establish norms of the internet.
The focus is not on one nation, but the free world. Information technology infrastructure will be sourced on blockchains. The free nations of the world will establish the norms of the internet, where blockchain networks can safely communicate with one another out in the open. The protocols, the rules of all data, value, authenticity, titles, everything will have standards on the web.
I'll say something about CBDC. So we don't have an explicit plan to do what you articulated, but since we are the world's reserve currency, we actually think we need to get this right, and we don't feel an urge or need to be first. We have effectively, it means we already have a first mover advantage because we're the reserve currency. So, and I think there are both benefits and potential costs and unresolved questions around CBDC.
Jerome Powell said they don't have an explicit plan. In other words, they have a plan, but it's not fully developed. Powell is sitting there pleased with himself and pretending like they have all the time in the world because the dollar is the reserve currency. But China has a digital currency that people are using right now. The U.S. government is spending at an epic pace, increasing their balance sheet, and the debt is accelerating. We have the ability to print dollars at a moment's whim and exchange our printed dollars for the goods and services other nations have produced. My nation no longer produces, yet we consume the products of other nations and pay for it with printed money. The debt is never going to be paid off, and the higher the debt, the less confident other nations are in our dollars. The next wave of the internet, anyone will be able to transact with digital currencies via the web without central intermediaries. SWIFT is a central intermediary that is controlled by the U.S. The new wave of the web eliminates the need of a central intermediary, and this is why the U.S. has stalled the Internet of Value.
It is a speculative. It's a speculative asset by any account. I mean, when you look at the most recent developments upward and now the most recent downward trend, for those who had assumed that it might turn into a currency. Terribly sorry, but this is an asset, and it's a highly speculative asset.
We have all seen the clips of Christine Lagarde praising distributed ledger technology and blockchain technology. Bitcoin is in our crosshairs. Why? And why now? The ECB is about to announce a digital euro. A digital euro is not going to be some super digital currency that can solve all issues. Digital euros will interact with other crypto assets. Christine Lagarde is telling the world, don't look at crypto. That means the world needs to look at crypto.
Which has conducted some funny business and some interesting and totally reprehensible money laundering activity. I think that there are criminal investigations that have taken place that I'm sure will continue to take place that demonstrate it very clearly.
Bitcoin is some horrendous, horrible catastrophe that enables crime. In 2016, Christine Lagarde was convicted of money laundering. She sent 400 million euros to a French businessman from the IMF. Criminals will use anything of value, including euros, as we saw with Christine Lagarde.
And so we're committed to, technology has made this possible. And, it's effectively, private sector actors can create the equivalent of digital money. We know that in the past, when private sector money The public sometimes just thinks of it as money, and then at some point they find out that it's not money, and that's a really bad thing we need to avoid. So we're going to look at it very, very carefully. We're investing heavily in understanding the technology and analyzing the policy.
Crypto's success is fiat's failure. The nations of the globe are maxing out their credit cards before the reset. The fiat system is going to be reset and hosted on the World Wide Web. All transactions will occur on this value layer of the web. All data, assets, titles, licenses, legal records, health records will be public and private, permissioned, and permissionless files. Every ounce of information will be hosted on the web for a global marketplace.
Have to pursue in this. I think we have to, in terms of what you were just talking about, comprehensive immigration reform, central bank digital currencies and payment systems. There are a number of issues like this where technology, information technology is at the core, and also digital citizenship and having a secure digital ID for all U.S. citizens. I think is really something that is past time, and I'm hopeful that there can be bipartisan agreement that this is something we need as a country. Things like digital driver's licenses that are Real ID compliant.
Your health records, driving records, financials, everything that you own, every time you spend or pay, everything about you is going to be recorded on ledgers, and artificial intelligence will be watching every ledger. This will no longer be a footprint that you leave behind on the web. This will be an MRI. Data is the new oil, and you're data rich. This is about control.
But I would say, since it's possible and private sector is already kind of doing it, I think this is something we need to take very, very seriously.
But to make sure that the private sector is moving ahead, not spilling over and creating some risks for the Fed, to have to step in ex post, I guess.
Yes, there's a need for, and we've been very focused, as you know, on better regulatory answers for potential global stablecoins in particular.
The G7 and G20 have ironed out a set of standards and rules for a hypothetical stablecoin, which I believe is Facebook's Diem. These standards are the framework for all of crypto. The regulations will provide clarity, and crypto assets can be utilized by businesses, banks, and financial institutions. Diem is not a super currency. There is room for Diem to work with public blockchains and crypto assets. The future is unknown, but the cryptosphere tends to have a tribal view of crypto. I do not take this view. Stable coins can be wrapped, interoperable, conditioned in smart contracts. There are endless amounts of possibilities for Diem to work and integrate with other public blockchains.
And there has to be regulations, and this has to be applied and agreed upon.
The value layer of the internet is not only possible, but now the regulators are setting the standards. We're at the first step of the adoption curve. We will have ups and downs, but make no mistake, crypto, blockchain technology, and technology is the future.
So that's been a high-level focus, and that will continue to be a high-level focus because they could become systemically important overnight, and we don't begin to have, our arms around the potential risks and how to manage those risks, and the public will expect that we do and has every right to expect that. So that's something that we've been working on with our colleagues around the world, and that will go on as well. It's a very high priority.
If Diem is the global stablecoin, Powell is saying that the G7 central bankers are going to protect what is systemically important. Meaning, when Diem is mainstream and it's systemically important, the central banks will not let it fail. The central banks are willing to print and inflate as much as they need to see Diem as a success. When we see stable coins like Tether or USDC, their market cap is calculated into the crypto market cap. Diem is yet another stable coin, but this time it has the central bank's backing. Diem is too big to fail, and it hasn't even been launched yet.
It's a matter that needs to be agreed at a global level, because if there is an escape, that escape will be used. So I think it needs to be if anything, it shows that global cooperation, multilateral action is absolutely needed, whether it's initiated by the G7, moved into the G20, and then enlarged, but it's something that needs to be to be addressed. And FATF is clearly an organization that has expanded in that respect.
It is clear to me that the central banks in the G7 want to see a future in crypto. They don't want Bitcoin or some libertarian coins to prosper. They have specific avenues for money to travel. That is why I am continuing to hodl XRP. Italy is insolvent and interbank lending is drawing. Banks lend money to each other outside of the repo market, meaning outside of the central bank's control. What happens when European banks refuse to loan money to Italian banks? Perhaps this is why Lagarde is going on and on about Bitcoin, or why the digital euro is about to be announced. No society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which the far greater part of the members are poor and miserable. Adam Smith. We are still early to crypto, and part of being early is holding your own keys. It is estimated that there is over $140 billion lost in inaccessible wallets. iTrust Capital utilizes institutional custody to secure assets. This provides peace of mind for both the savvy and new alike. I encourage everyone to look at what iTrust has to offer. The link is in the description below. If you enjoy my work, please consider supporting my channel via Patreon. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I produce 2 to 3 videos per week. Please hit the bell for notifications.